during Narendra Modi's term, India's been minting billionaires at a pretty brisk pace. Besides some of these well-known names like Adani, there's a whole lot of names and entrepreneurs that we haven't heard of that are now in the ranks of the ultra-wealthy. Now, I know you've been looking into some of them and what the billionaire class, or the rise in the billionaire class, says about government policy. What are you learning?
Over the last decade, India has minted more billionaires than ever in its history, and this is emblematic of sort of the government policies and the growth that we've seen in the country over the last decade. Barring a few bumps in the road, particularly the COVID-19 pandemic, India's growth rate has been fairly strong, and because of incredible amounts of spending on infrastructure, we've seen a number of infrastructure billionaires emerge, real estate billionaires emerge. Some of these billionaires, Bloomberg's estimated their wealth around the time that the Modi government came into power was around $1 billion or less than $1 billion. Today, they've crossed $6, $7, $8 billion. Some of these real estate moguls, would have had less than 10 million square feet of property under their belt in 2014-15. Today, they're well above 40 to 50 million square feet. Because of government spending across infrastructure, because of reforms in land acquisition, real estate, we've seen many of these billionaires leverage those policies and also benefit from these policies. So just as the Indian government's spending on infrastructure, for instance, has gone from about 1.6 trillion rupees in 2014 to about 11 trillion as of the last budget earlier this year. We've seen that money sort of trickle down to large infrastructure players such as Larsen & Toubro and the Adani Group, but also smaller infrastructure players that are today that have billion-dollar balance sheets. We've seen medium-sized companies become large billion-dollar companies. We've seen national players become international players, and similarly, we've seen this on the consumer side. Just as the middle class has been booming, per capita income in India has grown considerably over the last decade. The more consumption that's happening, we've seen a lot of companies, smaller companies that were perhaps not as well known 10 years ago, now become household brands and household names across the country. We've looked at 5 billionaires in particular who've really seen their wealth boom over the last decade, who may have listed or not listed their companies on the stock exchanges. They tend to hold their companies very tightly with large founder stakes. But there are dozens and dozens of Indian billionaires that are not as well known as some of the bigger names, and we've just looked at 5 of them on Bloomberg this morning.